Nah, man, you know, just working on my movie. Huh? No, not using my phone this time. Yeah, by myself. I don't know, probably about 2 hours, something like that. Yeah. No, using the Panasonic S5. No. The original one. It's just as good, man. You know, here's the thing that I've been thinking about lately. Like, I, obviously shot that first movie on my phone, and then I used the Sony A6400 for like 2.5 years, maybe almost 3 years. And recently I went back and I looked at some videos that I shot, and man, Like once I got a picture profile from a YouTuber for low light, which was like off the charts good, and it was that guy from Make Art Now. Yeah. No, I don't know him, but he put it up on his page, so I copped it. Yeah, and also then I got a Cine4 profile from that guy James Matthews. You ever check him out? Oh man, he got amazing videos on YouTube. I don't know what he does in the real world, but anyway, this Cine4 profile that he, put out there, it kind of stopped me from using S-Log too because it looked so good, like crazy good. So anyway, I went back and I looked at some of the videos that I put up with the Sony a6400, and I compared it to the stuff I'm doing now. And then I started looking at other people's YouTube videos, and I watch movies all the time, obviously. And I'm like, it's crazy. Like, you can get the same image from any of these cameras. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I mean, I just saw a thing the other day where somebody shot a feature-length film on the FX3. I mean, I shot a feature-length film on an LG V40 phone, Steven Soderbergh shot feature-length films on an iPhone. I think the iPhone 4 or something like that. I mean, it's not about the image quality. Like, you can get great image quality. It's about the lights. It's about your framing. It's about your set, your environment, like your location. It's like, ain't nobody, like pixel peeping once they're watching an actual movie. Maybe they're doing that on YouTube, because they're like, everybody's comparing themselves to everybody else, but not the general public when they're watching movies or a series on HBO or Showtime or Stars or whatever. Like, nobody's like going, man, like the dynamic range on that show is incredible. Like, nobody's doing that. But it was weird looking at my videos because I was like, wow, some of those videos look incredible. And I had no idea what I was doing at that time, but I was just kind of going by instinct. I was trying to make it look like what I see in the movies. Or on TV. And in many ways, now that I know more, it kind of slows me down sometimes because I'm like checking my settings and all that kind of stuff. And I guess I'm thinking like a cinematographer, but I'm not a cinematographer really. I'm just a guy who knows how to use a camera pretty well, but who can put a great story together. And there's a difference, you know, because I'm not like working for Nike or, you know, Adidas or Toyota or whatever, and they're like talking about specs, you know, like they have an idea of what they want. And so you have like maybe somebody, you know, client on the set with you. And also, you know, I'm not working with a big team of people. I'm doing everything myself. So, you know, like even if I had like an Arri Alexa, you know, or my camera, the Panasonic S5 or a Sony A6400 or whatever, you know, basically I can get pretty much the same image quality from all of these cameras. You know, it really depends more on my lens. You know, I mean, if I want to mess with depth and what? Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Like if I want to change lenses, you know, if I want to mess with depth of field and stuff like that. And you know what else? No, I use these vintage lenses all the time, right? Like I have a Minolta 50mm Rokkor, and I have a Minolta 28mm. It's called a Telesor. One of them is f2.8, the 50mm is f1.4, so I can really mess with depth of field. But, you know, honestly, you know, I have a Sigma 28-70. It's f2.8 across the whole focal length, and I can get pretty much the same image quality from that. I could put a Pro Mist filter on it. I can do a lot of stuff. You know, I can shoot with an ND filter at night, raise my ISO. I got that dual native ISO, so, you know, I'm shooting at 640 or 4000 all the time. I don't have to worry about noise, you know, like maybe I get a little bit, but nothing that anybody's going to care about. And honestly, the low light capabilities of the... Okay, so here's the thing. No, wait, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you why I switched. No, I could have still been using the A6400, but I'm going to tell you why I switched, because it really didn't cost me any money. Okay, so I found that amazing low light picture profile, right? But it's still not as good, or it's not as easy to use, let me put it that way, as the camera I have now, like the S5. It's got incredible low light capability, you know, and so I only work at 640 or 4000 ISO, that's it. Everything else I'm adjusting with lights or my environment, my location, but I'm not messing with my ISO because that is going to get the most out of the camera in terms of being clean. I just try to make sure that my white balance is correct. Yeah, well, what I'm trying to tell you is I've been working a lot with this Sigma, right? Now, Sigma has a reputation of being like uber sharp, right? Like really clean. And it is. But honestly, I could get the same image that I get with my Rokkor, you know, like maybe it's slightly different, but nobody would notice, and certainly nobody would even be thinking about it if they're watching a movie. They wouldn't even think about that. Because, you know, as long as I get the colors right, I get my image right, I have my framing, I have my, you know, depth of field, you know, if I want a blurry background or I want to show everything in the background, ain't nobody thinking about that. You know, like I think that I use my vintage lenses just for fun. Because it is an advantage to be able to use, like, the Sigma's autofocus. Like, I don't use autofocus really, but it is an advantage to be able to kind of set my focus and have a good starting point. It's just faster, you know. It's like, yeah, because it's electronically connected to the camera. And, you know, it makes it a little bit easier to mess with my aperture. Well, you know, I don't have to move the dials, but still, I still work a lot by feet. You know, like I can tell, you know, how many feet away something is, and I set my manual focus, and, you know, I also know zone focusing, and I could do that with this camera. You know, I just have to know, like I kind of know the numbers in my head, but I'm just saying, you know, whether I use the A6400, the Arri Alexa, Blackmagic, you know, 6K, the Panasonic S5, the Sony FX3, a Nikon Z8, or whatever. You know, I could use a Canon, you know, cinema camera. I mean, yeah, I might get a little bit more dynamic range or whatever, better autofocus, which, like I said, I hardly use it. I mean, unless I'm collaborating with a whole lot of people and I need like great audio connections and, you know, like I'm not doing that. So for most people are more like me, you know. If I was a cinematographer, I would probably own my own FX 9. You know? Or maybe just the FX3. I don't know, you know? I would probably try to get a cinema camera, you know, like a real cinema camera. I'd probably get a Canon or something like that because, you know, it's more reasonably priced. Yeah, but only because I'd be, you know, working with a focus puller, and I'd have, you know, I'd have an external monitor, and I'd have that monitor feeding another monitor for a client or a director or whatever. It's like, it's a whole different type of thing. Like, we're not even doing the same thing. Like, yeah, we're literally making a movie, both of us, or, you know, maybe they're doing commercials. I don't do that. No, I don't do that kind of stuff. Obviously, nobody's calling me to do a commercial. No, but let's say we're both making a movie. I mean, yes, we're literally doing the same thing. We're making a movie, but we ain't doing the same thing. Trust me. Like, it's a whole different thing. Like, that's a dream of mine. You know, if I had that kind of budget, of course, I would hire a crew. I would work with everybody. You know, I'd get sound people and wardrobe and focus pullers and everything, you know, lighting. But for my projects, I got to do everything myself. So, you know, the camera that I have, like, I love this camera so much, but it's not because it's so much better than every other camera. It's because I'm used to it. Oh, okay, yeah, so I didn't tell you. So here's why. So I wanted better low light because I was shooting a movie where I knew I was going to have this interior stuff that I needed low light capability. Like, I didn't want to have it real noisy, you know? And so I wanted low light, so I got that dual native ISO, much better. I love to shoot with anamorphic lenses. So the camera that I have, the Panasonic S5, lets me de-squeeze in the camera. It also has stabilization for the anamorphic lens, which is a little bit different than a spherical lens, I guess. Like, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but they do have a separate stabilization for my anamorphic lens. So I knew that I was interested in shooting anamorphic, so that's another reason I bought it. Yeah. No, I'm just saying, you know, it was reasonably priced, was full frame. I am really, like, I'm obsessed with the use of lenses and depth of field, right? So I have these vintage lenses, but, you know, if I'm being really honest, I'm finding myself working mostly with the Sigma lens because it doesn't really make that much of a difference, and it's much more convenient. And I don't really I'm not one to zoom in and out and stuff like that. But, you know, when I need extra reach, I have it. And also I got clearer image zoom. Well, not really clearer image zoom, but I got APS-C mode in this camera too. No, that means I have a 1.5 crop, so I can, like, 1.5 reach, which is a 1.5 crop too. But yeah, it's just like the equivalent. Like, 28 millimeters is really the equivalent of, suddenly I have a 42 millimeter lens if I put it in APS-C mode. So that was another reason I bought it. I wanted a full frame camera because I wanted, you know, better depth of field. Even though, you know, I feel kind of weird saying that because I got great depth of field with the Sony a6400. Like, it's really more a matter of how close you are to the camera. And, you know, I had some really fast lenses too. That's the other thing, you know, with the Sony, my lenses were so cheap. You know, I could have 8 lenses. It was going to cost me under $1,000 probably. Or under $1,500 or something like that. With this Panasonic, lenses are much more expensive, but they're still not crazy. It's not like Sony full frame. Yeah, so low light. I wanted better stabilization. Sony had none. Now, you know what? I look back at my old footage. I'm pretty proud of myself because I figured out how to get steady shots just using that camera with no stabilization. And so using it, you know, shooting like that with this camera, you know, the Panasonic S5 has really good stabilization. It's amazing. So I wanted better stabilization. I wanted the dual native ISO. I wanted anamorphic. Like, that's enough right there. And I just sold my Sony stuff and was able to get this and the Sigma. Yeah. Nah, man, it's amazing. It's an amazing camera. It's got better manual focus tools, like much better for video. Like, I do some still photography, but honestly, I use my phone most of the time for that. But this camera has amazing tools, you know, for manual focus in video, which A6400 didn't let me do. And so, that really makes a big difference for me because I'm in manual focus all the time. So the tools are better. You know, it's just loaded with more stuff. Yeah, you know, I have more tools for my exposure. That helped me a lot too. And like I said, I didn't really spend much money, especially because, you know, the Panasonic came with 2 lenses and I sold them because I didn't need them. But then I wound up getting a Sigma, so I sold the rest of my Sony stuff. So it was kind of an even trade, you know. I'm incredibly happy with it, man. I love it. You know, as a matter of fact, I might buy a second one. No, because, you know, not because I need it, because I need a backup camera, because I'm doing weddings and events, all this kind of, no. I need it because since I shoot myself all the time, it'd be easier for me to be able to set up 2 angles. And obviously, 2 cameras that are the same would match a lot easier. But I don't know, you know, I don't really know if I need it, you know, just make things a little bit easier for me. But, and you know, I can get a brand new or like new Panasonic S5 for under $1,000 now. So, because the S5 Mark II, yeah. So for me, I'm not shooting 8K, 6K, open gate, all this, like, I'm not doing that, you know. And I don't need the, you know, the autofocus on this camera is actually really good for when I use it. You know, I use it for like YouTube videos sometimes. If I'm looking right in the camera, I just set it, you know, if you set the area and you hit set and you have it, you know, your settings correct inside in terms of how fast and, you know, how responsive it is, I find that it works incredibly well. Just as good as my Sony 6400 worked in that same kind of circumstance. Now, can it follow things? Like, nah. Then it sucks, but I don't do that. I'm a manual focus person. Yeah. I love it, man. Yeah, but how much did you pay for those lenses? That's the R5C, right? Yeah, so how much did you pay for those lenses? And how much did you pay? Like, you paid twice as much for your camera than I paid for mine. You know, other than autofocus, I don't think your camera is any better than mine. Because that's what I'm saying. None of these cameras are better for the end result, you know, meaning the, you know, the picture quality, the image quality, the video. Like, you know, 4K is come on, 1080 is fine. But 4K is amazing. It's more about the collaboration, you know, it's more about, you know, the situation that you're in, the type of filmmaking that you're doing. You know, if you are a DP, you know, and you got to be on set with a lot of people, then you can't own my camera. But you can't own your camera either. You just spent all that money. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I don't have that kind of gear lust. I'm happy with this, you know, like, I mean, if the opportunity came where I got another camera and the S5 Mark II is a little bit more money than the S5, of course I would buy it. Because it has a little bit more. Like, why not? You know what I mean? Why not? But, you know, frankly, I don't really need that stuff, you know? So, you know, look, it's always nice to have new stuff, shiny stuff, stuff that does more. But, you know, do most people really use most of that stuff? Seriously? Most people don't use, you know, 25% of their camera. You know, they're getting like 25% out of it. You know, there's like a whole 75% that they're not even getting to, and then yet they still want to buy a new camera all the time. To me, that's crazy. You know, I didn't max out my A6400, but there were certain things that it just simply didn't have. And since it was going to cost me $4,000, $5,000, I did it. And plus, I'm not married to a brand. I mean, I love Sony. I would love to have an FX3. I mean, I love the way that Sony worked. I loved the way it looked. I loved everything about it. I learned everything on that. So I have like a soft place in my heart for it. But, you know, what's the difference? Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, like, they're all amazing. Amazing. You can't argue with that. Like, if you have any camera that's relatively modern, you're in good shape. You're cool. You don't have to worry about anything. You're good. Stop. Just learn what you have and make art. Tell a story. You know, write a script and then figure out what you want to do and then just do it. And I guarantee you, if you give one camera, if you give one Panasonic S5 to me and then give you like the Arri Alexa except that you're all by yourself and I'm all by myself, your movie's not going to look all that different than mine. If we both know what we're doing. If we get our exposure right, if we have things in focus, if we control the situation the way we want to, and we tell a visual story in the way that we want to. If you're working by yourself and I'm working by myself, and you have a $30,000 camera and I have, a camera for $1,700 or now $900, I could do what you do. It's not going to be that much of a difference, Gerald Undone might know, and he might be able to break out his tools and say, oh, dynamic range, but even him, even anybody, doesn't matter. If I record my video correctly, and more importantly, if I tell a great story, I can do what you could do, no matter what camera I have, no matter what camera you have, if we're just by ourselves. Doesn't make a difference. Matter of fact, my camera, if it's smaller than yours, that's actually an advantage if we're by ourselves. So, I ain't worried about it. Yeah. All right. Good to see you. Yo. You still down at the West Side Y? Oh, no, I've been gone for a while. All right. Same number. I'm never giving up that 212. Okay. All right.